Okay, welcome back to session. So somebody is asking question. We got end up with the time. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay, as I mentioned, dB meters are the few ones we can able to measure the noise levels. And if you see how it can be helpful, if you say in a hearing loss, it is an auditory effect, we can say. If it is interfering with the communication essential for the safety and productivity, it is a non-auditory effect. Then others are the hazard involved in the task. These are the few things we'll be studying throughout this PPT. So if you see noise dose meters, so these are the personal dose meters where we can able to measure, like I think where they use the radioactive metals, they used to have the dose meters where they can measure their the exposure to the radioactive materials. The same way here we have noise dose meters, which are in portable in size, where we can keep it in our pockets and we can uh, use like in a earbud or earphone in the other side where you are exposing with, so that we can able to measure the daily noise exposure levels. And there are a few ones, personal noise dose meters, which are like in miniatures, which are smaller in uh, size. And basically, these noise meters are directly, they'll display the noise dose level, which is you have exposed over a period of 8 hours of duration. And also these will display the peak levels also. If you are exposed with any excess levels, which are above the average limit, in those cases also, it will indicates the a person you are exposing to the higher levels. Then if you see this permissible limits of this noise, so how it can be done? So the recognition, evaluation, control of noise controls. So basically, uh, setting the objectives for the noise abatement program, which is nothing but reduction of noise levels or exposure level. Definitely, we should have an objectives. Then only we can able to invest something, or we can able to research for how we can reduce the exposure of such noise levels. Then measurement of noise levels at the workplace and also with the moving man when measuring his doses of exposure. One is talking about the noise which is generating from the sources. In other side, a person who is exposing, who is roaming around the machines or working near the machines. Then next level, we can do the comparing the measured values with the permissible exposure limits and also assessing the situation, whether within the limit or not. Once we measure the value, then only we can able to compare whether is it okay with the standard limits, whether we are in the safe limit or not. Then controlling the exposure of excessive noises. So once you are able to do a comparison, then we can look for the control measures. Then monitoring the hearing of exposed persons. First three steps are evaluation. Last two steps call for the engineering controls. Like first two steps in the sense, setting objectives and measurement, and last three will be looking for the engineering control sides, and also the medical health checkups, which is nothing but audiometric examinations. So how a noise can be controlled? One is the source where the noise gets generated. Then receiver who is hearing that noise, or who is exposing to that. If you see, there are three different areas where we can control at the source and at the path, which means the way which is coming, or I can say the road which is traveling, the path which is traveling, and also at the receiver side. It is nothing but at the people side. So if we see at the source level, these are the various control methods, as we see in substitution, installation, or segregation, relocation, or redesign, selection of machinery or methods which can give the lesser noise, enclosures, barriers, reducing energy or force, or damping, which is nothing but providing some cushions on the machines where it will generate. Then in the path level, in a sense, in the transmission time, any absorption or attention, barrier, silencers, mufflers, soundproofing, vibration dampings, or remote control, or any isolation. These are the ways we can do for in the path of the noise which is traveling. Then at the receiver side, again, we have ear protection. Majorly, it focuses on the people. Then supervision and audiography, and reduction in exposure time, saying that we can reduce the number of hours the person is working at the high noise levels. Then isolating workers by changing the job schedules, in the sense shift rotation, or giving some rest intervals. These are the various control measures we can implement in the different stages of a noise, from the source to the receiver, or in the, I can say, to the exposure side. And if you see other control methods apart from this, again, substitution of non precious tools or process for the pressure ones, then use of rotational or preferably uniform motion instead of reciprocating motions. This is about changing of machines, or choosing of suitable equipment. Like we have selection of machinery and method. Instead of choosing reciprocal case, we can choose the circular motion of machines. Then use of V-belt transmission instead of chain or any gear transmission. Use of lubricant baths for meshed gears or force feed lubrications. Then use of lining or elastic inserts in joints to avoid any minimalized transfer or vibration from one to another. And use of rubber lining inside the metal containers. Use of plastic and mute materials for the metal, or any combination of metal parts with plastic. Then keeping fans and engines off when not in use. Then good regular maintenance and tightening of loose guards and panels, oiling and greasing, and reduction of forces and speed. These are the various other control measures we can also implement to minimize the noise levels. Then use of vibration dampers, reduction in radiating area or on size, use of flexible mounting or couplings, and use of resilient flooring, and also sound absorptive materials, walls and ceiling. How like the DC sets are comes with inbuilt sound absorbing material, like they used to call it as acoustic enclosures or soundproof enclosures. Then reduction in pressure or turbulence in the increase of cross section or streams, and elimination of air and steam leaks, and increase in the distance from the noise sources, which is nothing but, as we've seen in the control, isolation, like how isolating the high noise sources from the near to the people, or based on the density of population they are working nearby. Now we'll try to calculate this noise dose. So there is a drill operator in an underground mine is exposed to the following noise levels during his workday. So basically 95 decibels for 2 hours and 90 decibels for 2 hours and 115 decibels for 0.25 hours. So basically for the dose calculation, this is the standard formula we use. Basically, we'll take the summation. If a person is exposing for multiple decibels or different levels of noise. So basically, this CN stands for the equal amount of time an employee was exposed to the noise at the specific level, and TN will be the equal amount of noise the employee may permitted to the exposure level. In the sense, for example, 95 dB for how many hours is permitted. That is the safest limit. What is the 95 dB? How many hours he can able to expose? I mean, safe or permitted exposure time for 95 decibels. For 90 decibels, how many hours a person can expose?
8 hours. 8 hours.
95 decibels?
2 hours.
95 decibels.
6 hours.
What I've given example. If
4.
I say yes, who is that? Thanks. So basically, you have to remember. I'll show once again because that is the fundamental actually. I'm sorry if I'm not conveyed well. So you have to remember. I think I'll make another table. So hope you're able to see the new one table, right? If I say 90 dB, so he can expose for 8 hours.
8 hours.
Okay. So when I say every incremental of 5 decibels, it will automatically reduce the half of the time of his work hours. Okay. When I say 100 dB, what is the time duration he can expose?
2 hours.
Great. When I say 115,
0.25.
when I say 110,
Sir, you have mentioned 1 hours, na?
1 hour. That is
when I say
105.
115,
Sir, 1115 you wrote to 1 hour. That's correct.
oh, sorry. It is 105. That is my mistake.
0.25.
Yes. That is typo error. Sorry for that. Okay. Now we can remember, right? If it is okay, when I say 90 decibels, the worker can happily expose 8 hours. When I say 95, 4 hours, 100, 2 hours, 105, 1 hour, 110.5, 115.25, which is nothing but 15 minutes. Okay. Let's jump into the
Sir, are
problem.
these, is there any scientific experimental evidence or any prescription sort of thing?
These are given by the OSHA, Occupational Health and Safety from the US, even Factories Act also, which is described once. I don't know what research they have done, but these are the standard limits they have given.
सर if 8 hours हम 90 decibels में हुआ था, so after how many hours we can what continue 8 hours what एक step में 8 hours continuous we are in 90 decibels sir. So next day
Yes.
we can continue again or how it will be sir?
Yes, you can continue again. You can continue again with the same decibels. In the sense, 90 decibels for 8 hours is the safest exposure. For example, we used to say the TWL, time weighted average, or permissible exposure limits, PEL, or threshold limit value, TEL, like thing. So those are the limits especially for the chemicals. If there is a presence of chemical in the atmosphere in certain ppm, for example, 3 ppm, 3 ppm in the volume, then you can expose for such duration. If the ppm increases, parts per million increases, then you are not supposed to. So for TLB, we used to call for 8 hours. For example, benzene, 15 ppm, you can expose for 8 hours. If I say the TLB of benzene is 15 ppm, it is for 8 hours of exposure. If the ppm will increase, then you are not supposed to. Same way for the, yeah.
So if 95 dB, we can work only 4 hours. If we use air plug, air muff, then working hour can be increased.
Yes. Yes, you can. That's where we are calculating this noise dose. So in such a case, you should have a solid evidence that after the use of your earplugs and the ear muffs, so what is the sound level you're effectively reducing? Then upon the result of that earplugs and ear muffs, then you can calculate the noise dose, the exposure. Then you can define the time he can expose in that workspace or in the work area.
What is the rest period after 8 hours?
Sorry?
Rest period after 8 hours, what will be the mandatory rest period?
There is no specific mandatory rest period. If you see in the, if you are exposing to any radioactive materials also, they will suggest 1 month or 2 months of rest. So it depends on the impact which you had on your hearing ability. So if we continue exposing for 90 decibels, there is no such rest which is required. It depends on the impact which you got due to that noise.
Even if we take a 1 hour rest period, then can he continue after 1 hour?
That's what I'm mentioning. It is subject to the condition. If you are exposed with a huge impact of noise, even at the on the spot, you would have lost your complete, ruptured your eardrum, and you lost your complete damage of hair cells. Even you take for whole rest of your life also, you won't get it back. It is subject to the condition, the intensity of noise, and also the volume of noise you are exposed to. Even within a 1 minute also, I would have exposed for 140 dB. Maybe in 30 seconds also, you would have exposed to 150 dB. That is how it happens. The impact, and also the impact on your the eardrum and also hair cells.
Sir, NEOS and washers both are same.
NEOS basically, they will, I mean, those are the standards they use for the manufacturing of PPEs, if I'm correct. The OSHAs, it is the standards for with respect to workplace hazards and the safety requirements. NEOS mostly referred for the manufacturing of the PPEs.
Actually, I have searched, but NEOS and washers limits are different completely.
Yes.
Mm.
NEOS mostly they refer for the in the manufacturing of PPAs. Certain specifications they will consider from the NIOSH.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Now we understood, right? What does mean by CN here? So which value you will consider? So these are the different values which we got. Which value you will consider as CN? So here the key is this. So in our lectures would have told in our childhood days, definitely there is a key in the question. You have to catch that point. The CN talks about the equal amount of time an employee was exposed to a noise at a specific level. This is the noise level he exposed for 2 hours. If I say TN, it is means IN, infinity. Don't think that, sir, in the top you mentioned C1, T1, C2, T2. But here in the bottom, you are explaining about CN and TN. TN means it is infinity. Sometimes you will have n number of times or n number of exposures. That's why it is CN and TN. Here about the actual amount of time the employee may be permitted to be exposed to the level. So that is the safest exposure limit. Okay. Can we calculate this for me? Just take 3-4 minutes. I'll take a pause here. You can calculate and tell me the answer. Then we can discuss.
No, please again repeat this.
So the CN indicates the equal amount of time an employee was exposed to the noise at a specific level. Basically, 90 dB is the specific level. Here it talks about the time. It means the C1 means the 2 hours. And what is the 95 decibels, the safest limit you can expose as per the table? TN means the permissible exposure or safest limit. 95 is 4 hours. So basically, how you will calculate? So if I say C1, 2 divided by 4, then if it is 90 dB, here also C2 is 2 hours divided by 90 decibels, I can happily expose for 8 hours. T2 is 8. C3, which is 0.25. And again, if it is 115, I can only expose 0.25 hours technically. That is the formula. CN basically the time he is really exposed to that noise, and TN is the safest hours or the safe hours or the threshold hours he is permissible to expose.
Sir, D equal to 175, if I am correct.
It is going to be the percentage actually. It is 175%. So if I say 175%, anybody got a different answer? We will wait for another 2 minutes. Okay. Any other answers from others? Or shall we go ahead? Yeah. Fine. No worries. Don't worry. So basically, so if I see this one, 100 into the 2 is the actual exposure and 4 is the permissible exposure. So by calculating this, you will get 175, which is a percentage actually. So whenever you see which is 100 and above, so 100% means that is the safest exposure. Whenever you are the percentage which is coming beyond the 100%, you can assume that a person is exposing more than a working day. It means he is exposing more than 90 decibels. That is the average of a work day. It is for 8 hours. Okay. And anybody got a different answer from this? Okay. And also we can calculate this time weighted average also. Once you done this dosage, I mean the noise dose, you can use time weighted average as well, so that you will get the overall TW of the exposure level. Okay.
What is the 16.61 constant or what?
That is a constant, Kumar. 16.61 log 10 is the constant. D is the dose which you got. Again, it is also a percentage. Okay.
So
This is
it
the standard
means for
formula.
a given day, 175% is the dose he received, and for 8 hours we have calculated like average per hour
Yeah,
basis like that.
yeah. So basically, in your work experience, I mean, such a level I didn't see. But if you good that you know this, if somebody cross question us, we should have some weapon to resist that. So you can explain that. I think this is the same slide. Okay. So any questions on this calculation, please? Any doubts, or are we good to go?
Sir, there are 2 or 3 more like terminologies which I came across, like STL and
STEL, PEL,
short-term
IDL,
exposure limit,
IDLH.
IDLH.
Ah,
So they are not
the
related to the noise and vibration, right? They are like
no. They are
concentration of
related to
chemicals.
completely chemical.
Yeah, chemical.
Even PEL, permissible exposure limit, and TL, TLV, threshold limit value. PEL, TLV, both are same. They used to calculate for 8 hours of duration. And STEL, as you mentioned, short-term exposure limit, which is used to calculate for 15 minutes of duration. And IDLH, it is immediate actually. Even you should not take not even a single breath at that atmosphere, which means the chemical content in the atmosphere is very high. Even with for a single breath, you may die, or it will give a lethal health impact.
Are those topics are covered in our curriculum?
Yeah. It is. It will cover in IS 108 in the chemical safety. We won't do any calculation for the TLV and all, but we have the high level. I mean, what is mean by TLV? What is mean by PEL? What is mean by STL and all? There we won't calculate for any specific chemical, because the chemicals are huge. There are millions of chemicals in the world. We won't calculate any such.
एग्जाम में ये कैलकुलेशंस भी आएगा क्या? सम्स?
नहीं आएगा, कुछ नहीं आएगा एग्जाम में. You won't get any calculations. Only you will get, I mean, some numbers with respect to the sections in the Factories Act. They basically ask you to write a few sections from the chapter 4 or chapter 5. There also you can write, if you are well versed with the section numbers, like section 28, which is about the running machinery or working at near the machinery in motion, like that. If you are not familiar with the numbers, better to not to write the numbers. Maybe some evaluators, they are very good in it, in that legislations, they may cut the mark. If they specifically ask section number and sections, then definitely we have to write. Otherwise, you can just write the section description. That is fine. Only in only 105 you will get. Otherwise, in nowhere you will get the calculations. In some cases, I have seen a paper, they used to ask the safe exposure limits of these noise levels. But that too, they will give in the multiple questions actually. One question may be, and one mark question may be, what is the safest exposure limit in a work area, like 90 dB. That is going to be 1 mark question. Such a level they ask numericals. Otherwise, there is no numericals at all. Completely it is descriptive type of examination. Completely you write only theoretical answers, no numericals.
Thanks, sir. Otherwise, we may need to review our mathematical concepts also.
Not required. For safety people, I think these, as I mentioned, nobody will ask in the exam, and even in your work experience also, nobody will ask. But it is always good to know that some basics. If somebody cross question it, who are you to say that the noise level is very high? Especially, I think you are already in the maintenance. When you become a safety officer, you have to go and fight with your maintenance team itself. Your machines are giving more noise. My people are exposing here. You should reduce something, or we have to replace the machinery. Then the top management ask you, so how you are telling that? You may come up with the third party report. They may say that it is higher level 95 dB. Then they may ask, so how you say that it is 95 dB, which is higher? Then you have to calculate all this. These many people are there. If I take one person on average, he is spending so much of time there. The noise level is this much, or 8 hours of duration. You can calculate, and we can show that practical evidences. Then we can able to convince. Whenever you are trying to convince management, they always see the numbers. They won't listen to our explanations at all, because they always interest on numbers only, whether it is a loss or it is a benefit. That we should remember, every safety officer. Whenever you are going for any approval, you should have a solid evidence. Sir, if something is happened, this is going to be the compensation we may come across. Approximately, even you give 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs based on your analysis, you should have some backup, so that they will convince easily. Our things will go in a smoother manner.
Better way is to convince, or else you confuse.
No. We should not confuse. Hence, we are in safety. We should not confuse them. Our life will be become hectic once they confuse. We should always transparent and clear, and we have to convey the same. It is decision is ultimately there, because they are the people. If it is a gain or if it is a loss, they are the people. They are going to taste it. So we will be in a neutral person. Always, safety officer job is advisory role. As per the Factories Act, also it is clearly mentioned. A safety officer is in an advisory role always, but he should maintain some backups, saying that I have advised everything. Nothing is kept empty from my side.
5 minutes.